Good evening and welcome. This is, of course, Psych 311, Criminology Behavior. And today, for this lecture, is what everything's been building up to in our course, because we're going to talk about psychopathology. Now, when it comes to criminology, everybody runs right to the psychopath. And that happens a lot on TV, okay? According to police shows on TV, there's a lot of psychopaths out there. Well, no, it's actually, when you look at depression, anxiety, OCD, all of the statistics are around 5% or less. With psychopaths, it's even smaller. It's really about like 2%, but we'll get into the numbers. So while we're really interested in what the psychopath is, because it's fascinating, a person who does not feel anything for doing things that are against the rest of our society's moral code. So these are things that we go, okay, this is not right to do, but they do. I really think that, and I think I've covered this before. When you look at like the movies, like the Joker, and you look at Phoenix's role, he has Phoenix's character has temporal lobe damage. Okay, it means and the statistics on that. I mean, it's a great portrayal. But I mean, statistically, temporal damage is you know you shouldn't do it, but you do it anyway, and you know you should feel bad, but you don't. It's because of brain damage. Now, Heath Ledger's Joker, that's a psychopath. Okay? If you're good at doing something, you might as well get paid for doing it. And everything is centered around what he wants. The psychopath is a person who never says, I'm sorry, because they've never been wrong in their life. Because every decision they make is for their benefit. How can I be wrong? I did that because that's what I wanted to do. So psychopathology, let's go way back to Freud. It is like a person's id is in control and gone wild without a superego to keep it in check. Or the superego is so beaten, battered, and small that it doesn't. And, well, the ego just kind of hangs along, at least in psychodynamic terms. Now, defining this, you have a primary psychopath, a true psychopath, and they're characterized by their very callous, shallow in affect. That means they're never really happy, never really sad. They're never really big on anything. Okay? They are manipulative. And so many textbooks say superficial charm. Oh no, 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 no. The charm is not superficial. They are charming. They are charming. They will draw you in. And after talking to them for 10, 15 minutes, you feel like you're their best friend and they're going to do everything for you. And that is the hustle. But hey, let's go from Freud to learning theory. It's awful reinforcing when you can get people to like you real quick. They do things for you. Okay? They use words like loyalty is important to me. And if you cared, okay, if you were really my fill in the blank, I've never met anybody like you. You understand me better than anybody. I'm nobody without you. It's manipulative. Okay? Secondary psychopath. Well, they have severe emotional problems. Okay? It's associated with impulsivity. So they like do things very quickly and long-term goals. So they have a plan. And it's related to people's hostility. And yeah, there are hostility scores out there. As in, it's a hostile thing, but again, the view of a psychopath is very similar to that of the antisocial personality. They're related, but they are two different things. Antisocial personality disorder and psychopathology. And the thing is, the view of the view in this kind of life orientation is that, well, the world's out to get me, And since the world is out to get me, I'm going to get the world first. Who do you trust? No one. Who's a liar other than you? Everyone. Who's telling the truth and what truth matters? Mine. My truth. My world. I don't trust anybody else. I don't believe anybody else. But if you like me, I'll take care of you. Now, you also have the dissocial sociopath, and the key is social on that. The dissocial sociopath has learned sociopathy, has learned this behavior from a subculture. Their neighborhood, their group, their friends. So, I mean, if you want to look at treatment, primary psychopath, boy, that's almost impossible. I mean, they get older, they get softer, but I mean, how do you do therapy with somebody who's like sitting there in therapy going, yeah, I know more than you, and you're just trying to get me, and I'm not going to admit to anything because I never did anything wrong in my life, so I don't know what you're getting at me for. The judge said I have to come see you. So, all right, 6 sessions? Check. Got it. I got to be here 6 sessions. Work on my anger management? Check. All right. Oh, you got a form for me? Yeah, let me fill that out. Let me see the answers you want. I'll give you the answers you need. All right, cool. Primary psychopath, are they going to change their behavior? Probably not. The dissocial, though, it's kind of learned, kind of taught that. And I mean subculture, as in you're in, and the word gang just isn't quite right anymore because you get these images and you say gang and people get a stereotype. They're in a group, they're in a subculture. You gotta understand being a member of a gang is not 6 people hanging around. We're talking about 50 or a couple hundred. If you're like in the folk, which are really big in Tidewater area, you're a member of the folk. Once you're in, you're in. And there's lots of brothers out there. So I'm not even going with Crips and Bloods because there's plenty of those out there, but they're organized differently. But they are organized and they are subculture, and the activities are correct within that behavior of that social group. We used to call these delinquents. We used to call this criminal activities. Gangsterism. See, that word doesn't mean anything anymore. Thank you, rap music and rock and roll. Gangsterism doesn't mean anything. The OG, I'm the original gangster. Okay, like it's a good thing. It's not. Not in its original meaning. Now it means something else. Okay? So, a sociopath and a psychopath used to be, a gangster, and those were bad things, but now they've been made to be, cool and attractive, and put your tattoos over your face, and I remember an article I read in the '90s talked about how if you want to be a rap artist, this was in Rolling Stone magazine, if you ever want to look it up, if you want to be a rap star, a stint in prison helps. Racketeering, prostitution, illegal gambling. I mean, we got casinos here now and all that, but illegal gambling. It's attributed to a distorted moral and social influences. That morality doesn't match their moral code, is what they mean by that. The moral code doesn't match that of the rest of mainstream society. So their moral code is a little bit different. Frequently aggravated, because they're, of course, from a broken home and a deprived environment. Of course, that's how you end up that way. And it's seen as an aspect of antisocial behavioral disorder. It's also called sociopathic disorder. I remember when my boy was a teenager, he's riding home from Kempsville High School on his bike, and he's like, I'm almost back in the hood. And I'm like, and my note back to him, back was, boy, you are an upper middle class kid, lives on an acre in Kempsville. It ain't the hood. But it's glorified. Absolutely, gangsterism is glorified. Antisocial personality disorder. Props, by the way, to Miss Cat who did the PowerPoints for this. What a great picture you found. But props out to my TA for that. That's a great pick. In fact, there's a part of me on talking this going, hey, this was my pick from my elementary school, because in elementary school, that looks a lot like me. So if I said that was me, a lot of you would go, wait a minute, that is him. Now, a pervasive pattern of disregard for the violation of and the rights, as in the personal rights of other, as in you don't steal, you don't hit, you stand in line, just it's your personal space. You know what they own, you don't just take stuff. And it starts though since about the age of 15. Hard to tell because before the age of 15, children are learning. So you get those kind of behaviors, and I got a curl standing up there. Of all the hair that didn't fall out, my one cowlick has never fallen out. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, man, that bugs me. But the thing is, it's almost always involves criminal behavior, which is stealing, fighting, okay, lying, of course, and it is a separate, discrete category in the DSM-5. Okay. Antisocial personality disorder, psychopath light. Okay. I just taught in my abnormal class, Psych 405, which the thing in that when we cover personality disorders, I'm like, okay, folks, I cover personality disorders pretty quickly because people are interested in it, yes, but it's all the disorders we've been covering throughout the whole course, only lighter. Okay, so it's like that, but not at the same level, if that makes sense. So with antisocial personality disorder, you have symptoms and criteria, and these are all in the DMS-5. Okay, and there's 4 diagnostic criterion. Okay, and it has 7 sub-features. There's a disregard for and the violation of others' rights since the age of 15. Violations of others' rights. If you were at work, everybody hangs their coffee cup like on a peg, and they all got their coffee cups there. Well, the antisocial steals it because it doesn't matter. They just break yours because why? They're pissed off at you, and it doesn't matter. Okay. Gotta think that the thievery, the old term for it is sneak thievery. It's small, little, petty things that are taken just because they want them and they don't care if it hurts your feelings. Or, here's the key, they like to do it because they think it's funny. They think it's funny to watch you look around for something, or to have it, or to find out. And keep in mind the lying, okay? The lying, the deception, the manipulation means the favorite joke of the antisocial personality. The favorite joke is while you're in the room to tell an extreme lie about you that embarrasses you and makes the crowd laugh. It's not true at all. Not true at all. I know 2 people who do that and they relish in doing that. My father and Donald Trump. They do those things. And by the way, his niece talked about how he does that, and that is so antisocial. I'm not diagnosing him because I can't. But man, that is exactly the example of how he likes to tell things about people that aren't true to embarrass them. Failure to obey the laws and our norms. Okay? What is normal? What is polite? And I mean, the norms are everywhere. You park in your parking spot. You don't take somebody else's spot. You don't mess with stuff on other people's desks at the office. You don't borrow things from them and never give them back. Like, let me have a pen. Just tons of things. The disregard of others people's rights, and you engage in behavior that results in a criminal arrest. So you finally steal something too much, or would warrant a criminal arrest. Lying, deception, manipulation for profit and self-amusement. And the self-amusement. This is the driving motor. Am I Am I having fun doing this, or am I making money doing this? And if it hurts your feelings, well, sucker, did you get for trusting me in the first place? But no, I'll never do it to you again. Never again. It won't happen again. No, I swear it will never happen again. Impulsive behavior, irritability, and aggression. Aggression is the threat to make you comply. Frequent assaults on others and engaging in fighting. Physicality is important, or the threat of physicality. Keep in mind, when you have a person throwing a temper tantrum and they beat up the refrigerator, as in they start screaming at you and then they just start punching and beating up the refrigerator and leave dents in it. Okay, fine, they didn't hit you, but do you see the threat in that? Do you see the threat? Yeah, my dad beat up the refrigerator because in high school I got into a fender bender and told the police can't go home. My dad's going to beat the hell out of me. So the police called right before I got home and let him know, don't hit your kid. When I got home, he beat up the refrigerator. That's antisocial behavior. That's threat. Blatantly disregards the safety and self of others. It's a pattern of irresponsibility. And they never feel bad for what they did. Because, of course, why would I feel bad for what I did? You made me do it. You hadn't made me do it. So it's your fault. The other diagnostic criterion are I've got to be at least of age 18, and you should have been diagnosed with conduct disorder prior, meaning you see it coming, and they could see it coming. And you didn't learn a different thing or grow out of it. So the antisocial behavior does not occur also in the context of a schizophrenic outbreak. That's schizophrenia, because schizophrenics will get violent and do these kind of things, but that's schizophrenia. Or when you're bipolar and you're on the swing of the bipolar. So you might do some of those behaviors, but you're going to swing back. It's not a personality point. It's the difference between disease and personality. So it's hard to diagnose before 18. Adolescent may display those features, but prior to that, still hoping it's developmental. But the prevalence, like I started off with, well, anywhere from 0.02 to 3.3% from the criterion, depending on the study. So the studies will go either way on that, as in either way, as in between 0.02 and 3.3, but it is not as prevalent, which I think is a good thing, considering that this is a disorder that once it happens is really long term. Comorbidity, well, as therapists, we call it substance abuse disorder, but to the person with antisocial personality disorder, they're just feeling good and having a good time. Treatment, well, you don't have a specific treatment for it, and work on the aspects around it. Because again, generally, these people don't come into your office and go, hey, I really think I'm antisocial and I want to fix it. Nope, the world's out to get me. I'm going to get the world first. Consensus is there's a little in the way of effective treatment. It's working with the people around them and working with them when they're actually interested in change. But the problem is, when do they come in for change? Well, when the court orders it. And trust me, these are smart people. They will look at and read over that court order like a checklist. Did I do this? Did I do this that I have to do? Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? And they go right down the checklist. Check, 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 check. Good. Let me go. I'm going to go do my thing. It says, and again, superficial charm. No, they are very charming. They're very charming. They use their attractiveness. They find people who find them attractive, that find their personality attractive, and they are charming and funny and bring you in. And after you meet a person who's like this, you are best friends in just a couple of hours. minutes, friendly, outgoing, many interests, and verbally skilled. Their verbal skills and manipulations. I have worked with people like this. I've run into them and they go, oh, you're a psychologist? Yeah, man, I know psychology. Yeah, you think you know the mind? I know the mind. Let me tell you about. Okay? And they start going in because they are so sure they know, and they do. And they do. Higher on intelligence scores, most definitely. It's hard to be a dumb sociopath. I'm sure there's some out there, but they're not going to be as successful as the smart ones. They don't exhibit severe mental disorders. See, the problem with this in our society is not that what they're doing is they're following their own moral code. They're finding their own beat of their drum. Okay, fine. But the problem is the trail of damage they leave behind. It's the number of people they hurt. And that's where it comes in. They find themselves in desperate situations. Psychopaths will die from suicide because of their violent and impulsive activity. But I suspect, and this is just pure conjecture. This is just pure thought. But I'll make a bet when a psychopath commits suicide, it's because well, going to make sure you don't win. Because if they're cornered, jail, long-term prison, if they're cornered and they take care of it first and they kill themselves, well, then they still win, at least in their mind. It's difficult. Hey, the world's out to get me, so I'm going to get the world first. They're selfish. Inability to love or gain affection. What that means is they don't reciprocate. They do have people who are loving them and taking care of them, but they don't give it back. So you're dating a sociopath. They keep talking about loving you. You do everything in the world for them. They never do anything back. But the day after Valentine's Day, they bring you a wilted rose in the plastic thing from the 7-Eleven, and you cherish it because it's the first time they ever bought you anything. Egocentric. It's all about them. Flat affect. Emotional affect is, and they don't respond. They don't laugh real loud, and they don't get real angry. And when they do seem to be real angry or really happy, they're faking it and they're playing a role. Little contact with family and disregard to the truth. The truth is whatever they say. So disregard of the truth, you got to understand. No, not to the sociopath. They always tell the truth because the truth is what they say. They've never lied in their life. They say what they want to say to get what they want. And what I say, if it gets me what I want, then I told you the truth. It got me what I want. So there's no remorse or guilt. I'll get what I want no matter what I have to do it. Doesn't matter what kind of embarrassment it does. And embarrassment's a real powerful tool for a sociopath. They're real happy to embarrass you. And trust me, if you try to embarrass them back, they are going to wail and wail and wail like you have done the worst thing ever. Nobody has ever been persecuted like that, like I'm being persecuted right now. It's such a witch hunt. It's like this has never happened to anybody else at this level. They do like seeking stimulation, though. They're active on things. The criminal, about 1% of the general population. And again, depressed, 5%. Anxiety, 5%. Postpartum depression, 30, about 1%. Most violent and persistent offenders, because doesn't matter if I hit you, I have a right to hit you because you have something I want. Just to make sure that I'm right because I'm going to win. High rates of recidivism. It doesn't matter if they get jail term or not. They're going to do it again because it works. Measures. There's actually a psychopathology checklist, and I put that in there. Now, I don't know if the active links stay active in these like video type things, but you can always write it down, highlight it, whatever. And I did post the notes. So if you go into this without the video, you can click on that link and take a look at it, which I think is on the next page, actually. Frequently used. Assesses the effective affect, emotional, interpersonal behaviors, and social deviance facets of psychopathology from a lot of sources. May not identify psychopaths who don't engage in criminal behavior. Those who just manipulate people and stay within the realms of the law because they figured out that if they don't break this rule and that rule, they can do an awful lot of things else. And here's a chance for the checklist. So I went ahead and I went to the line and I pulled it out and threw it in there just so you get a chance to take a look over of what it is. And again, superficial charm, glibness, and well, take a look at those things. Pick it yourself if you want to. Core factors of psychopathy. Kind of a two-factor position, three-factor, four-factor model, and a triactic model. Let's take a look. The dark triad, okay? Narcissism, psychopathology, Machiavellianism. Well, then read about Machiavelli, okay? So pause the video, go to Google, look up who Machiavelli was. It's the dark triad, okay? Everyday sadism, meaning they have fun, as much fun playing checkers as they do poking a person and making them bleed. It's no different to them. Socially aversive, but not always criminal. But they do what they want and they don't care if it hurts your feelings. It's what they want. And they get what they wanted. Tell you anything to get what they wanted. Okay? The female psychopath. The female psychopath used to be called histrionic. The old term, histrionic. And it still shows up at times in some textbooks. But the female psychopath, less prevalent than males. So apparently it has something to do, I think, with testosterone. But also when you take a look at the dissocial psychopath, to where it's from being in a gang or a group or an orientation, being the tough guy. So maybe we have less female psychopaths also because we might have less dissocial psychopaths, but they are out there. They definitely are out there. Watch the movie Monster. Less prevalent than males. Lower scores on the scale. They lack realistic long-term goals. But lots of marriages. Keep in mind, charming, interesting, love of your life, perfect. No, you don't need to write a prenup. Oh no, we'll never break up. We'll never leave. And they also don't disclose that you're their third or fourth husband. And after, hey, by the way, Virginia, 50% state. I think you only got to be married like, what, a year or something? 50% state. So meaning they marry in Virginia. After a year or two, now they can cheat on you the whole time too and disregard the marriage. When they go for the divorce, they get half of everything. Even things that have always been yours. The marriage, they get half. Children become pawns. It's for the male psychopath too. Children become pawns. Lack of realistic long-term goals. Lots of relationships. Wide range of crimes. In the movie Monster, the woman in that who was diagnosed as a female psychopath was also a prostitute. Beat up a lot. by her clients. She'd had a really horrible, rough history, but she also started murdering her clients who didn't treat her well. And, they'd take her out to a secluded area to have sex, and she'd slit their throat. That'll do it. Found their face in. So they're out there. Juvenile psychopath. Changing developmental patterns across the lifespan. And some features may be normal adolescent development. Children try on these behaviors and they realize this is wrong. So you'll see some of those behaviors of the petty thievery, the bullying, pressuring, because the bully's on the road to the psychopath. Because bullying works. By the way, note on bullying. It's hard to counsel the bully. Because right now, what do they tell you to do in school if you have a bully? You talk to the teacher. If that doesn't work, you talk to the principal. You talk to your parents. Our philosophy currently with bullies is not to change the bully, because the bullying works, by the way. Bullies, by the way, they don't have low self-esteem. They have great self-esteem for bullying you. They feel great about it. And what's our solution for bullies? We tell the person being bullied to find a bigger bully to help them. Yep. So you get the teacher, you find a bigger bully, stronger bully. It's really hard to get people to learn that compassion. In a lot of ways, with this topic, what we're talking about, people who don't have the compassion that they should naturally have. So, coping mechanisms and situations of abuse. There we go. Juvenile. Well, you don't want to label them. You label them and that's what they're going to grow into. So the ethics on that just really come in, because there's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you label them as a sociopath, they're going to go, okay, I'm a sociopath. They embrace it, they get it the way of life, and now you got a real problem. Youth who demonstrate these behavioral characteristics seem to be heavily involved in antisocial behavior, but let me give you, and this was just on your last exam, same thing. What's the big red flag? Cruelty to animals. Cruelty to animals. Okay? You come in and you meet the love of your life, but they want to make you get rid of your cat that you've had for 15 years. You meet the love of your life, they come in and your dog don't want to let them in the house. I don't know. Talk to Mother Nature. She seems to know something sometimes. Neurobiological factors in psychopathology. Well, we got the genetic factors. Temperament is involved. Now, temperament is inborn. Fussy babies become fussy adults. Angry babies become angry adults. Sleepy babies become sleepy adults. But the thing is, with temperament, now keep in mind, with somebody who's not a sociopath, angry babies can learn to cope with it and hide it inside. So you might see a flash in their eyes of anger, but they've learned coping mechanisms. I know plenty of people in the professional world. They'll send me an angry email and what happened here and did you and blank and this. And I'm like, I'm going to send back a really short email and I'll talk to them in a day or two. Because in a day or two, they're going to be thinking differently because they're just got a quick temper. And, well, quick tempers are quick tempers. And some people can learn to control it and some people don't. Neuropsychology. Well, they say central nervous system because we're talking about actually the reticular activating system, and it's an arousal system. So there's this thing here in the periphery is that there's kind of like an over-arousal in these people. And they respond real quick. They're very responsive. There is asymmetry as well. And there's a deficiency in that. And that I mean by asymmetry in that their left brain is logical, right is emotional. Their emotional brain is not as active. The executive functions, well, yes. Okay. But they're far more logical and analytical. There's not a lot of input from the emotional side. since the frontal lobe makes all of the executive or do this or don't do that decisions. Okay? And the amygdala and the hippocampus often act like a gate on how much information comes in and how we perceive that information. It's like their gate only works in one direction, so they see all things from one perspective. So there are differences physiologically, as in they were born that way, which is probably why it's so difficult to treat. And keep in mind, if you want to look at it from a Darwinian survival of the fittest point, the world's out to get me. I'm going to get the world first. I want this job. I want this thing. I want this person. I want to have their baby. I want them to have my baby. I'm not going to take care of that baby, but I'm going to, get what I want by passing on those genes. It's easy to pass on those genes when you don't care. I know a guy. He's got 6 kids. It's my age. Went to high school with him. 6 kids. 6 different women. In and out of jail, not prison, because he does not pay any child support to any of them, because why should he do that? What's his attitude? Well, I told her not to get pregnant. You want me to pay child support? I told you before that I didn't want kids and I didn't want you to get pregnant. And you let yourself get pregnant and you want me to pay for it? I don't know what you think. What? Frightening, isn't it? And that's the kind of attitude. Let me get the ugly off my face. Ew, okay? Get the ugly off. But that's what you face. Body and responsiveness also. So on the somatic, on their body itself, this is interesting. Their automatic nervous system, in the response to stimuli, they have low skin conductance, which means they naturally don't respond like with an owl, like ow. They sense the owl and then decide whether or not to say ow. Low skin conductance. They don't notice things as quickly. They appear both anatomically and cortically under-aroused. They just don't respond, meaning neurologically, perhaps. They don't sense that they hurt your feelings. They don't sense and pick up on your feelings. So your feelings have to be really over the top for them to actually catch on to them. And they're deficient in avoidance learning. So we're talking double touchers. What I mean by double toucher, most people only have to touch the stove once to learn that it's hot. They'll touch it twice before they're like, okay, yeah, it's too hot to touch. Wow, I shouldn't do that. Ow, yeah, bro. Ow, it's still hot. And then they hate stoves. Get all the stoves away. Big problem. If you can induce emotional arousal, they can learn from past experiences and avoid normally painful and aversive situations, but it's getting them to focus on it. But, I mean, think about this. If you've lived your whole life like a sociopath, me first, I don't care about anybody else's feelings. Think about the backlog of feelings one would have to work through if you ever started feeling. For any of you who are friends of Bill out there, part of the 12 steps is to make up to the people you've hurt. And you're working the steps. Psychopath would have a very long list. Very long list. The childhood of the psychopath. Well, beginning in childhood, and it continues throughout that. They often are born, and this is kind of along the time course of the conduct disorder. They tend to have hyperactivity, impulsivity, but it goes within the context of this is what I want. Parental neglect. So in those early stages, boy, Freud would love this, okay? In the early stages of life, instead of getting parental feedback and parental guidance on these activities, they just go on their own and they take care of themselves. So parental neglect is involved. And, well, negative school experiences. They're labeled as the bad kid. Okay? Labeled as the bad kid. I did have one kid I worked with who was on conduct disorder. And their file between middle school and high school was that thick. I mean, their file, and they had like over 100 referrals to the principal in the first year. But a lot of extensive therapy with this individual. They had a lot of personal change. They moved locations and were moving to a new high school from their middle school. And they wanted to break that connection from who they were. So they also changed their name and had a fresh start. That kept them from conduct disorder to be going into a sociopath. Still in contact with this one 10-year follow-up. 10-year follow-up, easy, 12-year follow-up actually. They worked professionally, full-time job. Good job too, actually. Pretty much social. Some relationships that have lasted more than a year, so they're no longer antisocial. Part of being an antisocial personality disorders, you haven't had a full relationship in a year. And intervention can help if you catch it early enough. We caught this one early enough. Treatment, well, no response to treatment. It's really difficult. Again, they've got to want to be treated. You can lead a horse to therapy, but you can't make it do it. You know, they've got to do it. And that's really tough. Again, the psychopathic type people, the antisocial personalities I've worked with, see therapy as a checklist. A lot of treatment. And evaluating them is difficult because when they come in for evaluation, they know you're evaluating me, and and they know what you're saying. So you're evaluating me, and I know you're trying to catch me on this. You're going to give me this checklist here. I'm going to say the things that make me sound nice because I'm charming and nice. Treatment of children and adolescents, well, there's a distinct set of emotional and cognitive deficits that lead to violent and antisocial behavior. And, well, the cognitive, behavioral, psychodynamic, and eclectic interventions can go. It's really tough because the scope and the intensity and the duration does seem to help and force, but bottom line is with the psychopath, what really seems to work in therapy? Age. They soften up as they get older. I know, that's so weird. They soften up when they get older. But that's what works for them. Okay? Fun. And that is the psychopath. So we hear so much about them on TV, but they're not really that prevalent. But if you got one in your life, how do you deal with a psychopath in your life? I love you, I forgive you, but you can't be in my life anymore. That's my advice. Have a great day, folks. I'm Dr. Jason Parker. Thank you for your time.